Welcome to our In Focus discussion tonight, the impact of arson. It's an understatement to say that structure fires completely upend people's lives. In June, we saw roughly a dozen structure fires on Utahns' homes and on their businesses. The loss, the upheaval, the worry, it all takes an emotional toll. So when the fire starts due to arson, that's something that we need to talk about tonight. And these are two women joining us right now who lost their businesses in Midvale, correct, during that fire. Sugarhouse. I'm sorry, I'm reading this thing and it said Midvale, but it was in Sugarhouse. There was just so many fires lately. Yeah. We can barely keep up with them over the last 3 weeks. So Alexa Lennon, she is this woman here on my far left, on the right of your screen, and this is Sara Rose, and they both had businesses, and Sara was a business manager of the Sugarhouse building, and managed that building there, I should say. So I want to say thank you both for being here. I know it's pretty emotional going through things. I saw the web story that we posted about everything that you'd gone through. Alexa, I kind of want to start with you right now. Bring us back to that day when you heard about the fire in Sugarhouse.
I was camping with my 4-year-old daughter and my sister and her daughter actually, and I woke to a text saying, from a friend who said, "I'm so sorry to hear about your business. Is there anything I can do?" And I said, "I don't understand. What are you talking about?" And and then I said, "Did it burn to the ground?" Our building was a very unique building made of a lot of wood. Beautiful, yeah, but just sort of had a hunch that was what had happened. And she said, yes, that's what happened, and sent me some pictures. And I got swept up kind of in trying to understand what was happening and the emotion of it. And my first reaction really was shock. What do you do? I wasn't quite sure how to feel, but I remember Rolodexing through my space. Like, what did I lose? And oh, there's this, there's that, all these things to replace. And then, really, to be honest, the one thing that I was most distraught about was this Valentine that my 4-year-old had created. It was a finger painting from when she was 11 months old, and my mom had worked with her at age 3 to turn it into this Valentine. And it was this beautiful piece of love that was on the wall that I got to look at. And it was the sentimental piece that hurt the most. So I reached out to Sara and just said, what's going on? And she said, I don't know, I'm gonna go check it out. And then I just knew I needed to rush home and
Sara,
get there.
When you talked to her, what was it like for you? Because you're the building manager, you're telling all of these folks, that there was a massive fire that went through your building. And what was that moment like for you?
It was the most surreal experience of my entire life. It feels like a dream. I was in total shock, as well as were all of the tenants. I mean,
you had your own business there.
I had my own business in there. That's kind of how I became the building manager. And I had to tell everybody that our building was gone, and it was just terribly painful.
When did authorities tell you that this fire may have been started by another person?
Authorities did not tell me. My tenant that was being stalked by the alleged arsonist called me because she spoke to the detective and found out that there was another stalking charge against him, and she was worried for her life at that point. And none of us just really even knew about all of that, and I couldn't believe it. I was floored.
Alexa, when you heard it was potentially arson, what were you thinking?
We had a few days to wonder what had happened and how it happened, and the fact it happened in the middle of the night when nobody was there, which was in and of itself a blessing that nobody was hurt. But there was some speculation around arson. But when I first found out from a thread that we were all on that it was arson, and then they posted a picture of the guy's face, the alleged arsonist, and to be honest, my first reaction was I felt sorry for the guy. I felt this pang of pity because I didn't understand what must have happened to this man, or what must be going on in his life to make that kind of a decision. And then when I found out it was connected to these, to a couple of the women in the building, and had a little bit of a deeper backstory, I felt very angry that it got to this point.
Sara, I got about 30 seconds left, so I kind of want you to speak for everybody. What is the process moving forward right now?
You know, sadly, our very tight-knit community, we are all dispersed, just trying to find a place to continue our work. We're a group of healers. We're a group of people that care and want to help people, and it's really unfortunate that, you know, in wanting to help, this is what has happened to us. And we're all just picking up from scratch and starting over.
Sara, Alexa, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's painful, and if you'd like to see their story, you can head to our website, abc4.com. We have that there. Again, ladies, thank you for joining us. We want to wish everybody a speedy recovery so that all of you can get back on your feet, so I just want you to know that. All right, coming up, we have a new dog in the house and his partner, or her partner, I should say. See how these fire investigators crack down on some of these arson cases right after the break. Welcome back to our In Focus topic tonight, the impact of arson. Joining us now is Unified Fire's investigators, Laurie and her partner, Steve Bowen. And Steve, thank you for being here tonight and bringing your pup, your canine. Somebody's got a treat over there because she doesn't even want to pay attention. I know things are busy for you folks. You got a lot of investigations going on. Let's start off with a lot of these structure fires. They seem pretty intense. What's your thoughts on how these things keep erupting?
It's hard to say. Each fire, we have to approach it as an individual fire. You can't say they're all connected at the same time or anything like that. We have to be really careful when we go in there with an open mind to make sure that we got to look at every circumstance of that fire.
Yeah.
So.
And what's your? I kind of want to jump the gun a little bit, but because it's the 4th of July weekend, what's your message for Utahns right now?
Stop using fireworks.
It is that time of the year, and we need
the weather conditions right now. Don't use fireworks, that's the main thing.
Yeah, go to the shows, right?
Yep,
All right. Now, I've been on some of these scenes, and I've seen you two out there. So what really makes a fire suspicious?
It depends on the circumstances of the fire. There's a lot of things we have to go through as an investigator. There could be situations where someone has been seen pouring gas somewhere or something like that. A lot of witnesses, we have to do a lot of witness statements. It varies. It's really hard to pinpoint right off the bat what makes it suspicious.
And Steve, when I've seen you on scene, you know, I see that you kind of take the step back to take a look at everything there. When's the moment that you go inside and you start really doing the work?
We wait till the fire's out, it cools down a little bit. When we don't have to go in on it, wearing an SCBA, so we can go in and we'll put a breather mask on so we're not breathing the carcinogens that come up from the fire. And then we can go in and look at it, visibly look at it when there's no smoke too.
When does Larielle come in?
She doesn't go on every fire, believe it or not. I have the luxury of having her with me all the time, so I can pull her out when I want to and use her because she's a great asset for the department. But when we deem that we think there might be a suspicion of the fire, there's something we just can't pinpoint what's going on, I'll bring her in and have her sniff around and see what's in there.
Talk about that sniffing around there, because she can hit on accelerants, right?
She's an accelerant detection canine, trained by the ATF.
And for folks that don't know what accelerants are, is that gasoline?
It's an
What is that?
It's like an ignitable liquid, like gasoline, lighter fluids, charcoal, you know, whatever, things like that, or diesel fuels.
Okay, so when she's looking through that, she hits on something. I mean, let's talk about the importance of having a dog there on a fire scene for your investigations.
It helps us find the area if there was an ignitable liquid used. And then we can take, once the dog's found that spot, we can mark it, and then we'll take a sample of that spot, and we'll take that and send it into the crime lab and have it analyzed by the mass spectrometer and have it make sure what it was to verify if it was an ignitable liquid or not.
And just so people at home kind of understand these things, when you're walking into these charred buildings, they're pretty much black like your shirt.
They're very black.
Yeah, so it's hard to tell the things,
It's very
right?
hard to see, especially at night. We use a flashlight, lots of flashlights, and
Daylight's your friend.
daylight's a friend with that. It's hard. It's difficult. It's not an easy task, that's for sure.
No, I know, and you've got a very important job to do, especially at this time of the year. So when you're ready to rule something arson, and you've made that decision that this is a case that you think somebody ignited something, what's the next steps?
The best thing about that step is we work as a team, basically throughout the Salt Lake Valley, but us in Salt Lake City, we're an arson task force, and also in that task force we have the DA's office involved, and we have a lot of assistant district attorneys there with us, and we call them on scene, have them come and view the scene, and we bring the totality of all the evidence together, and then find out if there's enough probable cause to claim it as a possible arson.
Okay, okay. How do we hold those folks accountable moving forward?
Lots of interviews, lots of legwork.
So it's important that people say something when they see something.
I love going on scene. That's the best part, and get on as early as I can to get the interviews from the witnesses and the victims. That's the main thing, so we can find out any information's there for us.
Okay. Let me, we got about a minute left to talk about all this, and I know that the fires have been very intense. There's been a lot of them. We kind of hit on this a little bit earlier about the fireworks, but how important is it to keep the water around, to make sure the defensible space is there going into tonight and hopefully tomorrow?
Especially with all the wildland issues and those people living in those wildland areas, they need a defensible space to avoid if there's anything that can spark or be a fire in their neighborhood, that they'll be able to have their structure so it's not as affected.
Yeah.
So-called.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you folks won't have to deal with any of that over the weekend, and people take your advice. No fireworks.
I hope.
No bringing Larry out.
No promise.
All right. I've got a K9 baseball card of her, but if folks wanted one, where could they get one?
They have to get it through our office.
All right, Unified Fire Authority. All right, well, this is Unified Fire Authority's fire investigators, Steve Bowen and Larry L. Thank you for joining us. She really wants to get off.
At least she got up.
Yeah, she got up. She wants to get off for the treats. She's like, I'm tired of being under these lights, Dad. All right, well, coming up, we're going to have part 3 of our In Focus discussion, the impact of arson. And Assistant Fire Chief will talk about keeping arsonists accountable. We just kind of hinted on that. We'll talk about the latest on fireworks and all of that after the break. Welcome to the third part of our In Focus segment, the impact of arson. Joining us is Assistant Chief Riley Pilgrim with Unified Fire Authority. Riley, I've known you for a long time.
Years,
I know it's a busy night, so I appreciate you coming in and talking to us about all of this, because there's crews right now working on fires that they're trying to put out. So the big question right now is, in your mind, your history, because I know you know your way around fires, both wildland, brush, even structure fires. What do you think is causing all of these, other than the people? I mean, because the intensity of these fires are just insane.
Yeah, it's tough to say. This year, to this date, we do know that 88% of the fires that are wildland related that the state VTOL's looked into are human cause. So a lot of it's recreational stuff. A lot of it's just improper use of fires and doing things outside. Some could be negligent, some could be intentional, but there's a pretty wide variety of the causes that are behind all these.
Riley, can you tell us, how many fires, structure fires, have you guys responded to? And being the Assistant Chief, you probably know how many of those were potential arson cases or ruled arson cases.
Yeah, pretty close. So to date, as of today, from January, we're on 17,000 calls total. About 1,700 of those were structure fire related or fire related.
Wow.
400 of those were determined to be legitimate, some kind of fires. It could be structure fire, outside fire, whichever. As far as actually determining the cause, a lot of those may go undetermined for a little while until the investigators can dig into it. So I don't have an exact number on how many are arson caused, but we've heard in the news lately, there's been quite a few that are very suspicious or very they're very questionable as far as how they started, and we do our best to look into those and see if we can determine if that's the case.
Well, and talk about the work that you use with other departments, because I know there's suspected arson, fires in Ogden, all the way down to Provo. So what's that relationship to make sure that you're getting the people that you need to get?
So a lot of the departments have their own investigators, like you met Steve earlier. There, we have about 6 people in our department who can do that, and they do a lot of networking. A lot of the stuff is database driven, where they look at similar causes or cases that have occurred in other areas. And then these guys, our special enforcement people will sometimes stake those out or pursue those or investigate those for months or even longer to get to the actual evidence and to the person who may have done it. Some are easier to determine, some take more time, but there's a pretty large network of collaboration that occurs there.
I got a list of questions here,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
going to kind of go off script here a little bit while they get those worked out here. Tell me, when you've been going through these fires a lot, and tell me, when do you get the itch? When do you know that something doesn't seem right?
Oh man, for us, a lot of times it's just a general environment. So for wildfire, it's always weather related, the location, the time of day, what's happening. With these structure fires that we're seeing too, it's the same thing. It's sometimes uncommon to have this amount of fires in such a small amount of time. I mean, it is summer, it's hot outside, people are active. So there could be reasonable explanations for some of these, but a lot of times when we show up, depending on the time of the day and what we're seeing with the occupancy, what kind of building it is and what's going on, the red flags kind of come up. It really just depends. And a lot of our arriving captains will just identify these signs. They'll notify the investigators of some suspicious things they saw, and sometimes it's just gut. When you show up, you just have a feeling something's not right.
Riley, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. I keep saying it, you've been doing it for a long time. What have you ever seen these types of fires, in your career in Utah?
I was just talking about this today with somebody, and this is really abnormal. So wildfires, we tend to have these seasons that we have a lot more than others. I am anticipating that for this year, but the structure fire cases, that's really unique. Talking to a lot of people even who've been in the valley for 25, 30 years doing this as a job here, most of them haven't seen the number of fires we've had, especially in the last, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks. It seems like they're just coming every single day, sometimes 2 or 3 a day.
Yeah, we reported
Pretty
on roughly
uncommon.
a dozen of them
Crazy.
so far. I know, I'm right there with you, because a lot of the times I show up right there with you. So, the big question here with these arson fires is your firefighters' safety. Talk about that, because we kind of hit it in our top 7 stories. You got this gear on, you're dealing with heat, and if these fires are set off by gasoline or some type of other accelerant, talk about that safety, because you're dealing with a lot.
Yeah, first and foremost, all these fires are dangerous in one way or another. Like you said, if there's different materials involved with accelerants or just where they're at, there's weather conditions with wind or whatever, the temperature. I mean, a lot of these, firefighters were working all day, and they're getting sleep or they're getting called out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and they may have already ran a whole bunch of calls that day. So when you show up, and just was shared like in your segment, they have their turnouts on and they're carrying all that gear. The fire's hot, the weather's hot. They're trying to help anyone who may be trapped or stuck in that situation. It's physically, mentally, and emotionally, it pulls on all that. And so these guys are working really hard. They're trying to do their best, and sometimes that's even what puts them in those situations of heat exhaustion or exertion, is they're working so hard to fix that problem.
We got about 2.5 minutes left, and while they're dealing with all of that, they're also coping with victims, right? I mean, we just met 2 victims there. We also saw that Unified Fire got a wedding dress back to a person during one of the fires there, and if you need to see that, go to abc4.com, because that's really great video there. But, talk to us about coping with some of these people, because you guys take a lot of that on.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, our goal is to serve the community, and anytime we can do something to help somebody out, especially in something like that, it's pretty traumatic. We're going to do our best. Hearing these experiences and going to a lot of these, there are a lot of similarities, there's a lot of differences, but it's hard. I mean, our firefighters do their best to be professional, and like I say, they're dedicated to the public. They want to serve, they want to do their best, but you see a lot of this damage and destruction. Fortunately, nobody was hurt or even worse, killed on those. But when that happens, it takes a toll.
Yeah.
I mean, we do our best to move forward, because we know we have to go on the next call and the next fire. But over a career, that adds up. That can be hard.
Well, we got about a minute left, so let's talk fireworks, because this is the big night where everybody's going to be setting them off. I know from experience with you folks, especially riding around with you, with fireworks comes dumpster fires. Talk about the importance in dealing with dumpster fires.
Well, that's kind of the one thing that with the restrictions we're hoping will help with is what happens is people dispose of hot items. They think they might be cooled off. They get thrown away unintentionally. They might land, just these small fires in general, right? And what happens, there's such a demand on all of our resources that we're sending fire trucks all over the valley. Then all of a sudden we get a good fire on the hillside, but everybody's tied up putting out dumpster fires and these tiny ones. And so, you know, we have to reallocate resources to make sure we take care of these bigger, more serious problems and priorities. But that's what we just encourage people, if you're going to use fireworks, do it safely. Make sure they're cool, make sure they're not by your house when you dispose of them. Keep them out on the street if you can for the night, or in a bucket full of water, and then take care of them the next morning. Yeah, there's no rush to clean up.
And we've got plenty of safety videos on abc4.com. I mean, we've done them ourselves. Your biggest concern this weekend?
Oh man, public safety. We just want our citizens to be safe. We want them to have fun. We want them to celebrate. We want them to be safe.
Riley, thank you for joining us tonight on our In Focus
Thank
and
you.
wrapping this whole thing up. It's been great to see you again. And if you need any of this information, you please head over to our website, abc4.com. We want to wish the men and women of your department and all of the first responders across our state a safe and joyful holiday weekend. Hopefully they don't have to deal with any types of fires. So thank you, Riley.
Thank you.
All right. Now, we'd love to hear from you about the show. So join us on our Facebook group by searching ABC4 In Focus. And send us an email, because we'd love to hear your topics. Our email is infocus@abc4.com.